If you have numbness to the small finger and half of your ring finger, then you might have cubital tunnel. Now, I already did some videos that talked about like what causes it, the symptoms that you might feel. I even shared with you treatment stretches and methods in which you can start doing things to take care of your cubital tunnel. But usually when people ask me like, what happens when you ignore cubital tunnel? And one of the reasons why they ask that's like, Huang, how urgent do I need to take care of this issue? Um, I'm going to answer that for you, and I'm going to show you some things, like 3 signs to look for, and also share with you some of the consequences of what happens when you ignore the different issues, because that can help motivate you a little bit to take care of this nerve compression issue. My name is Huang. I'm an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist, and I'm going to share with you my perspective and what I tell my patients when they come in and have questions about cubital tunnel. Because everyone's like, what can I do? How fast do I need to do this? Cubital tunnel is one of those problems that it's a chronic issue, right? It sort of started coming real slowly. Here and there, you feel some issues and then it goes away. And then over a period of time, it can become more frequent. Like, oh, now it's, every once in a while I would wake up and my hands would be numb. Every once in a while, when I was doing X, Y, and Z, then my hands would get numb. But now it's happening more often. That is one of the signs that you want to look for that is telling you that your cubital tunnel is getting worse, right? So at first, it's just once in a while, and then the frequency increases, right? So it starts happening, like if you're looking at from a week's time, it's happening more than 50% of your week, right? If it starts becoming more severe. So severity can sometimes be in pain, or sometimes it can be in how numb you get, right? Severity can be in how numb you get and how long it lasts, right? So those are some of the things that you're looking for in terms of the severity. The more severe it gets, right? The more pain you might have, right? So what happens when you ignore cubital tunnel? You can have more pain. The pain can last longer. It can be more severe. It starts to interrupt your day. So it's not that you can't do the stuff that you want to do. It's not like you can't go to the gym. It's not like you can't work, but your symptoms of the numbness, of the pain, gets worse. It disrupts your sleep. Nerves tend to have that problem. It starts to disrupt your sleep, and then you can't sleep the whole night because you end up waking up because your body is like waking it up and saying you're literally choking me to death. So your body wakes you up and it forces you to kind of move. And you'll see every time I see people shaking their hands, they shake their hands a little bit or they're shaking their arm out. That's a sign to me that's like, hey, what nerve are you compressing right now? So those are, as a certified hand therapist, those are the signs that I look for. Um, so um, that's what happens when you ignore your cubital tunnel. You'll have worse symptoms more often, right? Um, Sometimes that brings people in, and it's because now they're afraid. They're afraid, like, oh crap, like this is getting worse. Like, what do I do? Right? If you ignore it, then one of the things that can happen is that you get permanent weakness. So I don't think this gets talked about enough on, if you're doing Google searches and you're doing YouTube searches, no one's talking about the consequence of not taking care of cubital tunnel correctly. So the nerve that comes through here, this is your ulnar nerve. It passes down your arm, it comes past your wrist, and it comes across your thumb, right? And so the nerve is like these electrical wires, and it gives power to very particular nerves. It gives power to very particular muscles, and it tends to give um, muscles to these 2 fingers, right? And so these 2 fingers, your small finger and your ring finger, with your thumb, give you power in your hand. right? Anytime people come to me and they hurt these two fingers and they're like, well, how important is it? It's very important because those two fingers, this side, your ulnar side of your hand, gives you power in your grip. And your thumb does 50% of the work of your hand, right? So if your two fingers and your thumb give you good full power of your hand, when you lose power to the muscles that feed this side of your hand, you lose grip strength, right? And so it makes it hard for you to hold on and do heavier things because you've lost grip strength. Now, here's the most important thing. This nerve, the ulnar nerve, comes and innervates a very particular muscle of your thumb. It only innervates one muscle of your thumb, but let me tell you, that muscle is really, really important. Remember, I said that your thumb does 50% of the work of your hand. So what happens is when you lose that one muscle, it affects how you can use your thumb to these two fingers and how much power you can lose in your grip. So what happens with cubital tunnel is if you something is strangling the shit out of your nerve, right? And prolonged, low, sustained, prolonged compression of that nerve causes nerve death. When something dies, you can't get that back, right? So you want to take care of any nerve issue. But if you have cubital tunnel, man, it's such a huge, important nerve that goes to your hand. You lose a lot of function. There's a reason why that nerve is so important because it gives you so much power in your hand. So I usually encourage people to, take care of it sooner than later. Yes, you can try stuff on your own. You might have a mild case and it works and you do the exercises and you do everything right and it helps to relieve it. But if you've tried something and it hasn't improved within a month's time, go get professional help because you don't want to ignore it. And usually, what I tell my own patients is by the time you start feeling the symptoms, it's already been going on for a little while. And that's where people are like, oh, it only started when it got worse. Like when your pain increased, you're like, that's when it started. No, sweetie. It started months before that. You just didn't feel it and you didn't pay attention. That is the issue with nerve problems is it tends to sneak up on you, right? And when you start, one of the things that I look for is like if you look at your hands, right? Our muscles give us meat, right? Like the nerves give our muscles the bulkiness, the meat, right? And you can see here that I have muscles, right? And if I compare my muscles to my other hand, they're even. They're evenly distributed, right? You can see the go like that. You can you can see the muscles like sort of pop out. What happens with cubital tunnel and any kind of nerve issue, but if you compress that nerve long enough, you're going to cause a certain amount of nerve death. So nerve death can be permanent numbness in your fingers. So then now you lose a certain like sensation that you can't get back, even if you have surgery. If you start having what we call atrophy, right? So the muscles start to waste away because it doesn't have that power, electricity power from the nerve. It starts to slowly die. At some point, you kill a certain amount of that nerve and you cannot get it back. So that's what happens when you ignore it. So you want to, take care of it sooner than later, right? And the other thing that happens when you ignore it is that then you'll eventually need surgery because you've compressed it so much and the tissue that's around that nerve, it's so dense that you're eventually going to need surgery to release it. All right. So if you're trying to avoid having surgery, take care of it sooner than later. If you are trying to avoid permanent damage, you want to take care of it sooner than later. I've worked with people who've taken care of it right away. I've worked with people who've taken care of it after they have permanent nerve death. And what happens is that nobody tells you, or maybe you heard it, but you're not sure. Maybe it's not me. Maybe I'll recover better faster, and it could happen. But I've worked with someone who it got compressed for so long that she had the atrophy, she has a permanent numbness, she has a permanent muscle weakness. And so by the time she decided to have surgery, it only alleviated the pain, but it didn't fully, she could not fully recover muscle strength and sensation because she had waited so long, right? And so everyone's level of time is a little different. So some people fix it, maybe their compression is a little bit more severe and it causes them to, or maybe they're just more attentive to their body and they take care of it right away. Your chances of getting 100% is much higher, right? You wait multiple years. I mean, the person I'm talking about, I think she waited like upwards of 10 years. And by the time she came in and finally took care of it, it was permanent. And then the expectation is like, well, I had surgery. I'm like, well, but some of your compression has been, you waited so long that now, you know, we cannot get, we can try, but most likely I want to make sure that your expectations are aligned, that if you kill a certain amount of that nerve, we can't get it back. You can do all the surgery you want, it's not going to come back, right? Because you've just been choking and killing it all this time. So there are definitely consequences to what happens when you ignore cubital tunnel. All right. What happens when you're like, well, it's not that bad today. I'll wait until tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes months and it becomes years. So I just want to encourage you, if you are having problems with your cubital tunnel, your numbness, pay attention to the severity, to pay attention to how often you're getting the symptoms, how severe they're getting, how um, constant they're becoming. Look at your hands, and you don't want to see the muscles wasting away. Like, you want to get help before you see the muscles wasting away. If you don't see muscle wasting away, you have a better chance. So I want to encourage you just to take care of it sooner than later. And you can certainly try to do some things on your own, and it can really help you. But if you partner up with a really good, trusted occupational therapist, physical therapist, or certified hand therapist in your local area that can really look at you as a whole person. I always say that nerves run from the neck down the shoulder, down the elbow into your hands. So you want to find a therapist. If they're not so myopic, meaning they're all like, oh, it's at the elbow, I'm only going to treat you at the elbow. You want to find a therapist who's willing to take a look at your whole arm and say, okay, what is causing the elbow problem, that is causing the hand problem, so you can actually fix the issue and avoid permanent damage and avoid having surgery. If avoiding surgery is important to you. I know some people don't, they're like, let's go have surgery. And that's okay. I used to be very much like, yeah, let's go have surgery. But at some point it's like, some people don't need it. Some people are not candidates for it. And some things, if it's, it's not that bad, you don't need surgery. You gotta fix it naturally. And it's possible to fix it naturally. And if you're waiting for me to say that, it is possible to fix it naturally and get rid of it. So find yourself a trusted occupational therapist, certified hand therapist in your local area to help you figure out what is your best plan of action to take care of it before you get worse. All right. My name is Huang Tran. I'm an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist. I have a clinic in Miami, Florida called Hands-On Therapy Services. If you're in the local area and need my help, please give us a call. If you're not in the local area, then I hope this video helps you to find a therapist in your local area. If you like videos like this, hit the subscribe button, like it, and share it so I know to make more videos like this. All right, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.